So let's get it out of the way. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas!
I have done a Christmas episode.
Christmas!
This is a Christmas episode for you since you asked.
I'm wearing a Christmas
hat. You were wearing a Christmas hat last episode.
No one will have noticed. Don't remind them.
This isn't the same recording session. This isn't the same recording session.
The same day.
Today, I am doing an episode on mulled wine. I've made some mulled wine. Yes, I did accidentally boil it, so probably there isn't a huge amount of alcohol in here. It does taste good, and who likes their presenters drunk anyway?
Everyone.
Did it make any for us? Did it make any for us?
There's enough for you if you were here to drink it, but...
Yeah, I'm extremely envious. I really wish I had mulled wine right now. It's one of my favourite Christmas things. I love mulled wine.
I've mulled white wine, which I've never done before.
I was going to say, here's the thing that's disturbing me, Rach, is that's not even red. What is that? I didn't even know that was a thing that you would mull white wine.
A hefty amount of orange juice in it. Tastes pretty gosh darn good, actually.
That does sound good.
Is it really a mulled wine if it is a white?
Yeah, that's...
So, historically... we were going to film this last week and then change plans. And last week I made red wine. But this week I thought I'd shake it up a little bit. And it is a historically a done thing, and even presently a done thing, just not super often.
I really want to try it now because I'd never even heard of it.
So tell me, in your opinion, what is mulled wine?
It's wine.
Let's see who gets the right answer.
That you heat with spices and or fruits to flavour it and make it warm and tasty.
Mm-hmm. Jen, do you have anything to add?
I think I'm going to start with a very similar base of that, which is you get wine and then you mull it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Much like my hair when I don't cut it for a little while. But you're not wrong, but you didn't get the right answer. And of course, the correct answer is soup. So I'm going to talk.
Classic Rach prank.
It's a soup episode.
So let's consider it. Since mulled wine is a soup, I'm going to talk for a moment about stone soup. Stone soup. Do you know the story of stone soup?
There was someone with a stone and they didn't have anything to eat, so they went around to every person in the community and they're like, hey, let's make a big soup all together. You give me one thing, I've got the stone, we'll put it in the pot, I've got a stone in my soup, but I've only got a stone. You've got a mushroom, I guess. You give me your mushrooms, and you give me your carrots, and you give me artichokes, and we'll all make a big soup all together, and we'll all have soup. And I like it. It's a nice story.
Exactly.
Communism.
You can't get blood from a stone, but can you make soup with it?
Exactly, you can. That's the magic of stone soup.
I mean, it's a story. It's a story of gentle trickery. This person who doesn't have any food wants food. Starts up cooking a pot of stone, and then people say, "Ooh, what are you cooking?" And they say, "Oh, it's stone soup, delicious. If you give me some of your carrots, I'll let you have some." So trickery, but trickery for the common good. The end outcome, at least in this version of the story, there's definitely meaner versions of the story. But in this version of the story, just a nice tale of communism. People,
everyone shares, each other, and everyone gets. Everyone gets fed, and that's how it should be.
And so with that lovely story of soup in mind, let's talk about mulled wine soup and colonialism. So,
always bloody
wine.
Colonialism.
Classic.
Yeah.
Why is it with you three? It's always bloody colonialism.
I'm highly confident that wine has connections to colonialism, but that's not what I'm going to talk about today. Start you off gentle. First evidence of alcohol with grapes in it is in China about 7,000 years ago, but that's wild grapes and rice also. So people typically talk about Georgia about 6,000 years ago as the first evidence we have of viniculture and winemaking.
I've literally it's just clicked for me where the word vinegar comes from.
Yeah, or wine. Vin.
Wow.
Vin. Another thing you might put, and in fact I did put in mulled wine, is peppercorn. Like using white wine in your mulled wine. It doesn't seem that fashionable these days, but it has a long history of being used in spiced wine.
Be a bit peppery if you put peppercorn in there.
Yeah, actually, I don't think I really put enough in. I didn't, because all the other spices that I put in it were kind of strong. I didn't really know how much peppercorn it could take, so I didn't put a huge amount in. And it's not. I wouldn't mind a little bit more spice to it. I think that'd be nice. Peppercorns come from Kerala, and I have bad news for you. It is a drupe. It's not a nut.
Okay.
It's he's out to trick us every single time. Those drupes.
2021, the year of the drupe.
I'm realizing I don't think I've seen it on the plant. So yeah, I didn't have a concept of what the fruit that the peppercorns were in at all.
So they come on these vines. They hang on vines, and then I don't know whether this is. I saw footage of somebody getting them off the vines by basically just trampling on them. Very highly skilled trampling, but trampling nonetheless. And then they spread them out and they dry them out for a few days, and that's how you get the black peppercorns. If you want them white, I think they soak them for a bit first. And the spicy component is not capsaicin like you get in a lot of spicy things. It's piperine. Black pepper was highly valuable commodity in Rome, and like known to Europeans for quite a long time. And but they're at the end of the chain.
Only the really fancy types get to have it. And
exactly. According to the Greek philosopher Strabo, the Romans sent 120 ships every single year to go and bring back black pepper. But then that trade was later disrupted by changes in the power relationships in the Mediterranean and in the Middle East. I should say at this point, this is absolutely not an exhaustive history of the spice trade or even the trade of any of the specific spices that I'm talking about. I just want to give you a little taste of why this is not a stone soup situation.
Not communal sharing and everyone wins.
Yes.
Kind of situation.
Indeed. So basically, when Vasco da Gama discovered the origin of peppercorns in 1498, he was very much the last of the party. Showed up, offered some trivial gifts, or trivial in the eyes of the merchants and rulers who were there. And got essentially got laughed out of town, and then decided to kill some people on the way out. And
classy.
What a classy lad.
Yeah, came home to Europe. Bit of a tough journey home. And then a few years later decided to go back, kill a whole bunch of people. All the lovely stuff.
Who was Vasco da Gama?
Portuguese. I don't know whether he was a nobleman already before. He was certainly made a nobleman afterwards. I think he was the first person to get a hereditary title who wasn't a descendant of royalty, because he essentially threatened to defect to Spain once he wasn't getting enough attention. Anyway, horrible man. and with horrible friends and family who don't value other people's lives very much.
Merry Christmas!
Woo!
Classic Christmas story.
But today, black pepper is like still like a fifth of the global spice trade, according to one source that I saw.
Well, you put pepper in basically everything.
Yeah, I mean, people do.
When you season to taste, it's salt and pepper.
Yeah.
Another spice that you might put in your mulled wine is cloves. Cloves have a pretty long trade history, as in like a global trade history. Obviously, the local trade history is even longer. Apparently, they were required, like, if you wanted to speak to a Chinese emperor in the 3rd century BC, you had to chew cloves first so that your breath was fresh enough. I don't know if that's true or not.
That's how I'm going to live my life.
It's frequently said.
You are no longer allowed to talk to me unless you've eaten an entire clove.
Or brush your teeth. I think probably that'll do these days.
No, eat a clove. I don't care about your dental hygiene. I just want you to smell the cloves.
You're not allowed to speak to me unless you've eaten a clove of garlic.
Historically, cloves were only grown in the Molucca Islands, which are now part of the Philippines. And then, so they were known as the Spice Islands, not just cloves, but cloves were one of the spices that grew there. And in fact, one of the reasons that, like, all of these spices that we're talking about were more or less the reasons that Europeans set off and did some colonialism,
Right.
because they were so valuable that
They wanted to
that
control
anybody who could
the
get their hands
supply,
on them was rich. So and the Moluccas being kind of islands, they were targets. The Portuguese came and very very friendly of them, gave them lots of weapons. So that rival populations could, an exchange of weapons for spice and control is more or less what we're talking about here. Again, not giving any full histories of any of this stuff. And I've drawn in the middle, they're a flower, actually. So that bright pink bit that I've drawn there.
I've only ever really used cloves
I love this drawing.
in stick them in onions and put them in milk.
Oh,
have you ever stuck them in the outside of an orange?
I've done that for
That's the thing that people do
Christmas.
sometimes. But did we actually put cloves in, or do we just? I just remember
I think so.
skewers with jelly tops on.
Yeah, maybe it was supposed to be like traditional.
I think cloves is much more traditional.
And we did jelly tops. We just did jelly tops.
Yeah, exactly. And another spice that you might find in my mulled wine is nutmeg.
Oh,
in fact, you will find it in my mulled wine.
Doesn't it look fucking awesome? Another drink, isn't it?
Yeah, so the
so
red bit on the outside is mace.
Yeah.
And then just underneath that, there's like a shell. You open that shell and then the nutmeg's inside. The fruit is also edible. They use it to make sweets and syrup.
Oh, that's interesting.
Got to be careful with nutmeg. Don't want to eat too much of it. Drop down dead.
Really? It's also people
it's
use
poisonous.
How much use it as a drug? People use nutmeg as a drug. They get high on nutmeg, like if you have loads and loads of it. And if you have loads and loads and loads of it, then I guess you die.
Merry Christmas!
The Banda Islands are part of the Moluccas, but they're a smaller group of islands where nutmeg grows. And thus, just perfect for the Dutch to completely monopolize the world trade of nutmeg. For centuries, actually, not until the 19th century did they did the Dutch lose enough sway that they could start growing nutmeg somewhere else. People who worked with it, dock workers or ship, they weren't allowed to have pockets because it was so valuable. People could take it and sell it and buy a house, So
wow.
extremely tightly controlled. Yeah, so the banned islands, part of the Moluccas, the Dutch killed 90% of their population and replaced them with slaves from Java.
Fucking hell.
That's...
Yeah, so it also basically kick-started the East India Company, which briefly maintained control over one of the islands before being ousted by the Dutch, who then chopped down every single nutmeg tree on the island just to maintain their monopoly, which they did, as I say, for a very long time.
The history of colonialism is just the most
but spices,
vile, wasteful, stupid, like, it's just...
I felt like awful writing this presentation because I'm talking about the aggressors, basically, and I'm not talking about the victims. Talking about the victims would be, for one thing, way too sad, and for another thing, probably I couldn't tie it in by talking about my mulled wine. We're talking about Vasco da Gama, but he's as though he's the main character. But
hope everyone's having a lovely Christmas. Hope you're all with your family and friends. Hope you're having happiness and joy.
Just hearing that they killed 90% of the population to get hold of the nutmeg, and then they cut down all of the nutmeg trees.
Fucked. Fucked.
Absolutely fucked.
Another spice you might have in your mulled wine, and I do have in mine, is cinnamon. I
love cinnamon.
You'll be pleased to know that I don't have quite as much detail to go into about this one, partly because cinnamon is actually, like, there's a bunch of different fairly closely related plants, fairly geographically widespread, so
not tightly controlled so much.
Competition between colonial powers is not necessarily always colonial powers fighting in the same place over the same thing. It's colonial powers fighting in different places over the same thing. Now for something completely different.
Is it fun? Is it happy? Is it no longer sad?
Much less depressing. Something else, not a spice, thank goodness, this time, that you might have in your mulled wine is oranges.
Yeah.
We'll talk about oranges a little. I've got plenty of orange in my mulled wine. Did you know that sweet oranges are pretty old? Mix between a hybrid pomelo and a non-pure mandarin that was deliberately created in China. Its earliest mention in Chinese literature is about 300 BC, so it's pretty gosh darn old. And that bitter oranges are probably a natural mixture of roughly the same things, pomelo and mandarin.
I was just learning about this the other day, that there was originally like 3 different citrus family fruits. There's like citron, pomelo, and mandarin, and that was the original ones. And they naturally hybridize all over the place very easily. Like, they have to be kept very separate, and also people deliberately bred them, and that's where all of our citruses come from. So like a lemon is a cross between like a pomelo crossed with a mandarin, making a bitter orange crossed with a citron, making a lemon, I think, something like that. And then, and it's the whole array of all the different citruses we have come from those lemons. 3 mixed and matched.
Yeah. That is pretty cool. But oranges do have a dark secret.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
They're
Merry Christmas,
delicious.
everybody.
They're dangerously tasty.
That the orange colour does not indicate ripeness, and often they're picked and they've still got a whole bunch of green on them, and they're perfectly ripe. I think it's not even legal in a lot of places to pick them before they're ripe. And then they go through a degreening process just so that they look nicer, to sell them to you, the hapless consumer.
Oh no.
Well, I'm happy to be a hapless consumer if that means my oranges are orange.
Ethylene gas is how they...
because that's just a ripening.
Call me hap, and take it away because I'm happy to be orange.
It's a ripening, it's ripening, but it doesn't ripen the fruit at that point. It's
right, it's just ripening the skin to make it look orange.
The skin doesn't indicate, it's a chlorophyll is chlorophyll. It's the same thing that makes green leaves turn to orange in the autumn.
Right.
And also, to stop themselves from getting scurvy, colonial vessels would plant orange trees wherever they went. Had to. So.
Gotta get that vitamin C.
Yeah. Just thought I'd squeeze that one in at the end.
Like a little squeeze in some extra citrus juice.
Yeah. I also didn't quite tell you the whole truth, because I didn't quite tell you the whole truth of what is in my mulled wine. I also put in there some cardamom and some allspice and some star anise.
I love cardamom.
So, just so you know.
What is allspice, though? Does it come from a drupe as well?
Everything comes from a bloody drupe. Everything comes from a drupe. There's no such thing as a pea. There's no such thing as a nut. It's all a drupe.
Coffee. Coffee. You know what it comes
conspiracy.
from? A drupe. They call them coffee cherries. It's not a bean.
Fools.
It's not a bean. It's a drupe, actually.
We thought colonialism was the problem.
There are two things we've learned in the last year of Next Slide, Please. Nothing is a fucking nut. It's all a drupe.
Yeah.
And colonialism is the reason why everything is
Yeah.
fucked.
You know what joke I intended to make? I was going to say a fifth of the global spice trade, according to one source that I saw, but I don't remember which source that was, so maybe take it with a pinch of salt. That was my joke, because it's a salt and pepper.
Hey, that's quite good.
Hey.
Well done, mate.
I know, it would have been good if I said it the first time round.
It needs some workshopping.
You could
Yeah, sip.